Sprinting speed is an immensely important quality for performance in any team sport that is played on a court or on a field. There's a variety of things that go into making your sprint faster and more efficient. In this video, I'm just going to explore just a quick 3 exercise group that will help you boost your sprint speed. So I want to initiate this video by talking about what sprinting is biomechanically. So rather than try to demonstrate it here, I'm just going to kind of talk my way through it. I'll try to throw in some animations that help make the video a little bit clearer. But when we sprint, what we do in essence is exert powerful, forceful blows into the ground with our feet. So each time we stride, we kick this foot back into the ground and explode off the ground with our foot, right? So our ability to move fast through that sprint comes down to, at its simplest form, our ability to exert that force into the ground. Now, there's a whole bunch of things that go into that play different roles in that regard. Like I said, we're going to explore just a couple of those. The first one I want to look at in this video is our hip flexor tightness. So your hip flexors are muscles that cross over the front side of your hip that allow you to bring your knees up. That's my hip flexors contracting right there. There's a couple of different muscles that grow into that, including your rectus femoris, your iliopsoas. That's not important. What is important, though, is that when this muscle becomes tight, that puts that hip flexion in an increased tonic position, meaning that we have a little bit more tension pulling down the front side of our hips that always wants to put us in this flexed position. A lot of people have this issue because they're either students that are sitting for a long period of time, or they might be working a desk job where they're, again, sitting at a desk all day, typing on a computer. They're in this flexed position. That muscle, or those muscles that cross over that hip joint, they shorten, they get a little bit tight. And what that causes with sprinting, again, when we stride out, we push back, if our hip flexors are tight, they're not going to let us get a full range of hip extension and stride the whole way through. So that's, like I said, the first thing we want to address in this video is getting these hip flexors stretched out. Now you can do some soft tissue work, maybe with a lacrosse ball or a kettlebell, digging into these. I like to keep it simple here. We're just going to do a basic couch stretch, which I'm using a bench for. It doesn't have to be a couch, but that's just a way to specify that you can also do this at home with a couch. I'm going to throw one foot up on there. I'm going to drop my back, or that knee, down to the floor. I like to try to keep it as close to the base of the bench as I can. And what I'm going to do, sit nice and upright in this position. Now this is my right knee is on the ground. I'm going to squeeze my right butt cheek, and immediately when I tighten that up, I can feel the stretch right down to the front of my thigh. And if I drive my hips forward a little bit, it increases that stretch even a little bit more. So I'm going to hold this maybe 30 seconds to a minute on average is what I do for each leg on my hip flexor stretch. Once I hit that time, I just stand up, switch my foot over to the other side, do the same thing. Knees close to the base of the bench, butt cheek tight, squeeze the booty, drive the hips forward, and again, establish that nice stretch down to the front side of your thighs. Now that we've stretched this out, that's going to give us a little bit of an increased range of motion to that extended hip position, just allowing us to really drive our foot down and extend the whole way through that movement. The second exercise that I want to put into this video is going to be a basic step up. Now, I kind of argue with myself about this a little bit, whether or not the step up was the exercise that I wanted to use, and I'll explain why here in a minute. With sprinting, as I discussed previously, it all comes down to your ability to exert maximal force into the ground. And so, is a step up necessarily that path to training your body to exert maximal force? No, it's not. And we're a little bit limited because we're putting ourselves in a very deep hip flexed position. We can't get a whole lot of power generation from the bottom here. So with that in mind, I certainly don't want you to walk away from this video negating the thought of doing squats and deadlifts and things along those lines that are going to allow you to use more weight and really drive down into the ground. But the reason I picked a step up as a second movement is one, it's a little bit simpler to show in a short video here, but also, like I said, it puts us in that deep hip flex position, which is similar to if we were sprinting and we are in that position here. So we're mimicking that movement pattern, but instead of being more horizontal as it would for a sprint, we have it vertically. Now, there's a few different ways to do this. I have always coached a flat foot on the surface that you're stepping onto. There's evidence out there to suggest that training from on your toes, so rather than flat foot, as I recommend here, some athletes or some coaches like to coach it off of their toe because, again, that mimics the movement pattern of a sprint. You're not sprinting from a flat foot position like this, you're on your toes. I would leave that up to you guys, whatever you think works best for you. I think keeping that flat foot is going to allow you to establish more of a solid foundation of strength and power output or force exertion prior to switching over to the toe format, where here you can't use as much weight driving off your toe to do the step up. Here you can use a little bit more weight. So again, I'll let you decide on that. My recommendation would be to start and learn it from a flat foot position and then maybe transition to the toe position later. Now, one more thing I want to preface before I actually demonstrate anything here. I'm using a bench. I don't particularly recommend that. I would use a more solid, stable surface than this. This is just what I have. So in this case, it's going to work for us. But in any rate, what I'm going to do here is keep my weight shifted over top of that front leg. I don't want my back leg way back here because that doesn't particularly allow me to get over my weight shifted forward where I'm pushing from. So I like to keep that back foot in close, keeping the weight over top of it, and I'm going to drive down into this foot as hard as I can. And since we're teaching this movement for the purposes of improving sprint speed, let's drive that opposite side knee up through at the top and hold that position there for a second. So in this case, I'm not using weight. I will keep the arm drive in. You don't have to do this. You can use weight for this. That's a good way to overload this exercise to build up your capacity to exert force. But in this case, without weight, left knee's forward, right arm is forward, left arm is back. I'm going to drive through. Opposite knee comes up, back down. Drive through, and back down. Same thing goes to the other side. I throw my right leg up, left arm is forward, right arm is back. Drive through, try not to fall, back down. Drive through, back down. And again, as you improve your form on that, you get better at it, you can add some weight to it. You don't have to have the arm drive, but that's a good way to really work on quick, explosive force exertion from a hip flex position to a hip extended position. The third exercise that we're going to go over for improving your sprint speed is going to be a sled or a prowler push. The reason we're going to use this exercise is that it's actually going to mimic the leg movement of a sprint. It's very hard to mimic that movement in a weight room without pushing a sled. And so naturally, in a video where we're trying to get faster sprints, we're going to use it. There's a couple different ways you can hold it, whether you want to go in close like this or arms extended. Arms extended works to a point. If you get too heavy, then your feet will start to slip because you're at too much of a long angle, or like the hypotenuse of the triangle becomes too long. A lot of physics stuff, don't worry about that. In that case, you just need to stay in a little bit closer. But either way, we are, just like we discussed in the previous parts of the video, striding out and driving the knee through and placing the foot on the ground directly below the hips or slightly behind. If we never want to step in front of our hips with our foot, because that creates a braking force that doesn't allow our momentum to continue carrying us forward. So I'm going to push the sled a little bit just so you kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about here. Now you could do these heavy enough that you're not moving particularly fast but exerting a lot of force, or you can do them light enough that you're moving very fast. I find that a happy medium between the two of those is going to be your best bet. But for the sake of this video, I'm not going to go super fast on these because I want you guys to focus on that leg movement that I'm going to demonstrate when pushing it. So I'm going to take a close grip on it. I'm going to lean into it. A little bit of tension in my shoulders and chest so that I'm not just hanging on my joints. And I'm going to drive the knee through and extend the leg the whole way back. You can see I'm keeping this nice low angle, keeping my weight shifted forward, just as if I was doing a maximal effort and maximal speed sprint. That is a prowler push. Those are 3 exercises to boost your sprint speed. Give those a try and let me know what you think.